college track and field is a very big deal, whether or not you choose to pay attention to it, because many of the top athletes on the world stage already competed at that level or still compete at that level. Like they go to the Worlds and then come back to college. But that is not what I'm here to talk about, because the NCAA is now living in a brand new world, like as of like a month ago, where revenue sharing is going to be a new thing for Division I programs. And I've already shared my thoughts on most of this, so there's no need to go back on all that right now. Simply put, it's really about college football. Like they want to pay the college football players, give them what they say their market value is, and that's what the revenue share is about. $20 million or more when you look at outside NIL, like all that money's going to start traveling around. Again, it's not all about football, but it's mostly about football. Basketball to a lesser degree. So where does that leave track and field? I've gone on record for a while saying that this was never going to be good for the track and field community. And I'm going to link a playlist with everything that I break down about that. But I've been following the story. And even though we are in the summer of 2025, the fallout is coming. There's already been some warning shots, and some of it, I can see where it's headed. And like I said before, if you've been paying attention, the freight train is coming. The latest piece of information that you need to know is that USTFCCCA, large acronym, but all that you really need to know is that they're basically the governing body for college track and field. That organization, they've been trying to do everything they can to help save the sport. When I say save the sport, I'll clarify. They are trying to figure out how to keep programs from shutting down or losing funding, like losing scholarship spots. Like all of that is what's expected as the fallout, because you can't pay people with money that doesn't exist. So many of the colleges, if they want to give more money to a football team or a basketball team, are going to have to find it in the budget somewhere, and they're going to take it from somewhere else. They are now trying to propose, like they're lobbying for new legislation. I guess they're going to have to take this up with the feds, like take it up with Congress. And I'll come back to that statement in a moment. What they want to see is minimum spending put in place for Olympic sports at the college level. That is their great plan to help save the sport. I'm sure it sounds pretty good in theory, but I'm going to walk you through why this is not a great idea. You have to know why it's not a great idea so that we can figure out what might work. But for now, we got to deal with the world we're living in. So, hey, I'm just going to hop into it and, hey, let's do it. Because you deserve to know the truth about what's going on out there. I'm just a man who actually cares about the sport and wants what's best for everybody. And if college track and field is your sport of choice, you need to have a sport to actually choose. Like teams have to exist for that to go forward. Jay Billis is not a track and field guy at all. He focuses on college basketball. And in the conversation about revenue share, because basketball will see some money, he discussed, like he said publicly when he was asked, like, hey, how do you feel about the Olympic sports and funding for that? And how is that, like how some of those programs might get cut or affected? He said, as far as I'm concerned, don't really see why that issue has anything to do with what I'm saying about basketball. He's like, pay the basketball players at the schools that deserve it, give them the money, let the chips fall with the other teams, take it up with the feds. So that's what USTF-CCCA appears to be doing. Track and field at the college level is far from perfect. I've shared my thoughts on that. Again, if you go to the playlist, you'll see me go in depth about what probably should change to help the sport advance and provide more value. But if you start lobbying for minimum spending, here are the immediate issues that come up. You gotta know what college track and field already looks like at the D1 level to know why this doesn't work well. College track and field teams, like, we don't have fully loaded, like fully funded programs with cross-country, indoor, outdoor across all of D1. Yeah, some programs are like that, but most are not. There are right now approximately 300 or so men's teams and more than that on the women's side. But when we say teams, I mean programs that have anything, cross-country, indoor, or outdoor. Some programs are cross-country only. Some are cross-country and outdoor. Some are cross-country with indoor and outdoor. And some are having all the seasons, but underfunded. Like, maybe they don't do all the events. Like, we don't do field events here. Or we don't even do, like, we're distance only. Like, we don't even really put energy into the sprints and the hurdles. Some really de-emphasize cross-country. Like, you see what I'm saying? So when you say the term minimum spending, what exactly do you mean by that? Because nobody is really doing the same thing out here. They're the reason why when you look at most conference championships, even in the SEC or the Big Ten, you see the same programs at the top of the conference list every single year. The simple answer is they have more funding. That is it. That's the real reason. You can have a program that's cross-country only, competing at a conference championship with those that are fully loaded across the board, with scholarships and everything else. Like, it's not equal opportunity in any way, shape, or form. So to institute minimum spending, like to attempt to do so, you're basically trying to bully the colleges into spending money that they haven't been spending already. Because only a few things can happen. Either you essentially put a metaphorical gun to everyone's head and say, you've got to fund track and field at this level. If that level looks like cross-country, indoor, outdoor, because you're trying to save the sport, you're going to have programs that don't even have all that right now, who are going to be told you have to spend the money. And are we going to tell everyone in D1 to do this? Because there are programs that don't have the sport at all. You're going to tell them they got to go find the track team and make it up all of a sudden? Neither of those things are feasible. Like, that's not really going to happen. Some version, like the only thing that could happen is the schools that actually do sponsor the sport could be told, if you do it from this point on, you have to fund it at a specific level. And whatever that level is, if it's ahead or above what you've been doing, you have to determine, are we in the track and field community or are we not? And considering they're trying to force you to spend money that you didn't want to spend already, if I'm the athletic director and I'm being entirely objective about it, I would just cut track and field. So let's have a real discussion about cutting the sport, because that's what's happening. Programs are going to be getting shut down. At first it's going to be smaller, but it's really going to explode in 2026. And the reason why is we already know. Montana and Montana State, which are FCS programs that are trying to opt into the new revenue sharing model. Remember, I said FCS football. They don't play big time football. They don't have big time football money, but they feel the pressure, just like everybody else in D1, to opt in. We've got a lot of conferences and a lot of schools that I didn't think would be opting in that are trying to do it. Like the SWAC conference, which plays football again in the FCS level. They are trying to opt in. The Northeast Conference, which plays FCS football, which nobody really is checking for. No shade, just being honest. They're trying to opt in some form or fashion. So when you get to Montana and Montana State, like those schools, one of which said they're opting in and they're about to restructure things already to do revenue share. The other said in 2026 we'll opt in, but we're not ready yet. When they say they're not ready yet, you gotta know what they actually mean. When you opt into revenue share, you're announcing that you're gonna spend more money than you've ever spent. And a lot of that money's gonna go to football and basketball. So for you to spend more money, you gotta make more money. Either that or you have to find it somewhere else in the budget. When it comes to college track and field, there's a very real reason why our team goes to the slaughterhouse first. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCARecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. I am now going to give you the blueprint on how a track and field team gets cut and why they get cut, because we can basically predict every single team that will be at risk if we follow this formula. When you are a college department, like an athletic department, there are actual limits put on you by the NCAA. The limits tell you the following. If you're FCS level, you gotta have 14 sports. If you're FBS level, you have to sponsor 16 sports between the men and the women's sides. The minimum for men's sports is 6 sports. Hey, stay with me on this. I know I'm giving you some math and some numbers, but it's all gonna make sense in a moment. If the minimum is 6 sports, and we're talking FCS level, like a Montana State, that means that you also have to have 1 sport sponsored in every single season for the men and the women. These are the rules. And the last rule is that basketball can't go anywhere. Basketball is the only sport that's mandatory in Division I. Everything else is optional. Revenue share dollars really only become a significant issue when we're discussing football. So think of it this way. If you have football, that's your fall sport. They're the king. They're not going anywhere because they're the one who started this mess. And basketball can't go anywhere. And we already have women's basketball. Like, those things have to happen. Everybody else is up for grabs. Like, everybody else can be cut if you really wanted to. But now you have to understand why you would cut them. If you're trying to get your house in order, to do revenue share dollars, all you're really trying to do is get rid of all unnecessary spending. You want to get rid of sports teams that don't produce revenue. Like track and field. They're not the only one, but like track and field. If you can get rid of all those sports and get down to the minimums, because the only thing keeping track and field here in the NCAA, like the only thing, is the mandatory minimums on sports. That's about it. So as long as track and field is a part of your athletic department, and they've already cut down the list of sports down to the minimums on the men's and the women's sides, if you do that, your track and field team is technically safe. They can't get cut anymore. Because if they did, you would no longer be an NCAA member. You would be out of compliance for Division I. So then when you look at Washington State, like what they just did to their program, Washington State football competes in the Pac-12, or at least the new version of the Pac-12. And their track and field team just cut funding. They didn't cut the team, not on the men or the women's side, but they cut funding. And they're the reason. They cut funding because they were at the minimums already. Remember, cross country gets counted as one season. Indoor and outdoor track count as two separate seasons. So when you have a track team with cross country, I'm technically counting them as three separate sports. And Washington State cut so many sports already from their department. They can't cut anything else. They're at the minimums. But they still want more money to revenue share with other athletes. So in order to find it, they went back to which teams they already had and said, who can we take money away from? Track and field can't go. Like, we can't get rid of the team, but we can pull some of the funding. So this year they announced, we're getting rid of all field events. Bye. If that's what you do, don't come to Washington State anymore. And they're pulling funding away from the sprinters and the hurdlers. They're calling it an emphasis on distance, and they're trying to dress it up for something else, but I'm gonna call a spade what it is. Like, if we're gonna call this out, this is what's happening. You're slashing funding from your track team because you really don't care about it. But cross country, indoor and outdoor, you can technically throw distance runners out on the field or on the track, on the course for that matter, and do it over and over and over again, and technically you have a track team. I mean, winning things in track and field, that's not going to happen. Like, not at any conference level or, like that's out of the question because you don't have enough athletes anymore. But that's not their concern. Their concern is we can't get rid of the team technically, but we're basically getting rid of the team. Those are the teams that are safe. The ones that are already at the minimums. So here's the formula. If your athletic department is already at the minimums and track and field is a part of those minimums, again, FCS, you got 14 teams in total. Track and field counts all the way up to that 14 limit between the men's and the women's sides, and you count it out and we're already at the minimums, like we're not going past that, you can't go anywhere. The moment you go over that 14 if you're FCS, or go over 16 at the FBS level, because that's where Washington State was, that is when track and field is now at risk. And if you are an athletic director, let's just be objective. Why would you get rid of track ahead of everybody else? Here's the real reason. Remember, they're the formula to this. Track and field teams count the same athletes multiple seasons in a row. So if I'm 2 sports over the limit, I could either A, get rid of a lacrosse team, because I'm probably going to keep baseball and softball. That's easy enough. Like, just being honest, in the spring, that's who I'd probably get rid of first. And then you have sports like golf or, soccer in the fall. Like soccer on the men's side, y'all could go if we have football. If we don't have football, soccer, you're safe. You're not going anywhere. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's rules to how you get rid of people. But when you look at track, let's say I'm 2 sports over the minimum. I can just get rid of the track team and I'm done. Because if I keep cross country by itself and get rid of indoor and outdoor track, I cut myself down to the minimums and I'm safe. I got rid of unnecessary spending, slash the budget, and keep it moving. If you get rid of a track team, let's say you're 3 sports over, you get rid of cross country, indoor, and outdoor, and you're done. You got rid of all of it, and you're done. But for every other sport community, if I'm trying to get rid of 2 to 3 sports, I can't just get rid of the track team. I got to get rid of the baseball team, or the lacrosse team, and the golf team, and perhaps something else. Like, you see how you got to add it up now? Why do I want to make the wrestling team and see, follow where I'm going with this? The wrestling team, the lacrosse team, like let's say wrestling, men's lacrosse, and let's throw golf in there. Why would I want to make all 3 of those communities mad at me when I could just get rid of one team and be done? track and field, cross country, bye. Everybody else gets to stay. I mean, people gonna get mad regardless, but at least it's one group of people mad at me instead of 3 groups of people mad at me. That is the formula. That is the reason why track and field teams are at risk first, ahead of everybody else. And now that we know what's going on, programs are trying to get their house in order. It's all gonna come down to how they see their spending. Again, I'll give you some more of the warning shots. Some schools in the MEAC, like the whole conference didn't say it, but some of those schools have already said that they're trying to do revenue share as well. That's a warning shot. The Atlantic Sun Conference is now partnering with, I believe, the WAC Conference. They're trying to form some type of partnership for football, which means that they're going to try to find revenue share dollars. Before that happened, North Alabama, which is in the Atlantic Sun, which I believe was cross-country only, meaning they had already slashed down to the minimums. They said we're going into revenue share. So because they're down into the minimums, they can't really get rid of cross-country. You see what I'm saying? But they're going to revenue share. So cross-country is going to stay there on life support. It has to happen. But if we're trying to revenue share anything with the football team, well, they're just not a priority. Y'all is just here now. The real question going forward for the NCAA, especially when we look at D1 track and field, is which teams are going to be here when it's all done. Any athletic department that is above the minimum cutoffs, they're going to have to get their house in order if revenue share is something that you're actually taking seriously. You can't be shelling out money when you have people who don't contribute anything financially. Again, this is how the decisions are getting made now. And those teams, you're trying to keep them afloat while we find more money? That's a bad financial decision. And we've allowed things to get to this point. I want to see the sport of track and field thrive. I really do. But I'm also aware that paying college athletes never meant paying all of the athletes. It was always going to be a small group that we already knew who they were. It was football and basketball. The truth is, if you really want solutions from me, what really needed to happen for the NCAA was they needed to create a new division, because we know that the 3-division model has kind of been blown up for a while. It's dead. It's over. Instead of trying to make D1 become something else, like trying to do revenue share and force it into D1 and let people opt in, opt out, they should have asked athletic departments who wants to join a new division. Like, leave D1 in its current state. No revenue share for D1. We're not doing that. Just do it the way you used to. Fine, maybe outside NIL, and they created a new clearinghouse, so maybe you use that to support. But if schools want to do revenue share, they should have had to opt into a brand new divisional model. Call it Division Delta, since we want to go above D1 and they call it something else. I don't care what name you call it, but it needs to be a separate division. Let the Georgia Bulldogs, the Oregon Ducks, let those schools opt in to something separate. That way they can do what they do because they actually have money to spend. Everybody else is being now forced to find money that really didn't exist. When you have a conference like the NEC and then they put out a statement, I'm quoting, but I'm just going off of memory here. One of the athletic departments, like their AD, said in that conference that most of the schools for football aren't even doing 45 scholarships right now. The old NCAA limit was 63 for FCS football, but they're now opting into a revenue share model, which is going to lead them to a point where they're allowed to give out 105 scholarships. But these are schools that didn't even give out 50 last year, most of them. If that is true, and we're talking about revenue share, you see how bootleg that actually sounds? If I'm an athletic department that's doing anything to add spending, and I've got a track and field team, and we're not at the minimums, sorry, y'all could go somewhere. That's a warning shot to the entire NEC. Because if you are a football playing school in that conference, hey, you should probably go check your athletics department again if that's who you're affiliated with. Because some of y'all about to get cut. I'm not saying that I know this for certain, but I'd be shocked if it didn't happen. So I apologize that this video was a little bit different. Because as I've said before, I care about the sport and I also care about you. So I believe you need to know what's actually going on out there. Because people are trying to make informed decisions about recruiting, where they're going to go, and what scholarship dollars are available, and so on and so forth. And if you are an athlete at a school like Washington State who wakes up one morning and gets an email that your school is going to be slashing funding to your program, that is not fun. Washington State, although they weren't a national powerhouse, they have had athletes at the national championship level in the sprints and the hurdles for the past 2 years. And now, those athletes are essentially being forced to hit the transfer portal because the team doesn't want them anymore. When I say the team, I don't necessarily mean the coaches. I mean the athletics department, because they're trying to find money that's going to come away from their budget to give it to somebody else. I will commit myself to trying to talk more about solutions in future videos over the coming months. But right now, we need to have a really good understanding of the problem, because you can't fix a problem if you don't first admit that you have one. And college track and field definitely has a very big problem on their hands right now. Actually made it all the way to the end of this video. I do have to admit that thank you doesn't do it justice anymore, because you are a real one. And if you want more from me beyond this video, on scarecruiting.com, you can get a ton of resources, like my free recruiting guide, online courses, and much more, including the option to meet with me one-on-one, where my specialty is helping you figure out which schools might actually be the best fit for you. And if nothing else, and you really just want to see more content like this, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.